Sunday dinners always had a strange kind of silence, but that day it felt different. The sound of silverware, the smell of roasted chicken, the white tablecloth my mom saved for special occasions. Everything felt tighter, like the air itself was holding its breath beside me. My dad set down his knife, wiped his mouth with a napkin, and said it as casually as if he were commenting on the weather. "We're going to use your savings to pay for your brother's university. He needs it more." Just like that. No hesitation, no explanation, not even eye contact. My mom adjusted the forks as if he had said nothing unusual. My brother pushed food around his plate, pretending not to hear. And me, I felt my heart stop for one long, heavy second. Before I could react, I heard the slow scrape of my grandfather's chair sliding back. He looked at me, and something in his eyes told me he had suspected this moment long before I ever did. Then he turned his head toward my father. "Say that again," he said, "but this time, look me in the eyes." And there, in that suffocating silence, everything I had buried for years finally rose to the surface. But to understand how we reached that moment, the day I learned my family believed they had a right to my hard-earned savings, I need to go back. Back years. The childhood of, you understand, right? My name is Elisa, and since I was little, I learned that the easiest way to keep the peace at home was to stay quiet. You understand, right? Your brother needs more attention. You're older. You know how to handle things. These phrases were the soundtrack of my childhood. My brother Lucas was always the potential of the family. I was the responsible one, the flexible one, the one who didn't need much. While Lucas got new bikes, themed birthdays, new sneakers, and courses, I got things like, "You're practical, sweetie. You don't need much." But I did need things. I just learned not to ask. And in the middle of that carefully decorated favoritism, there was one person who truly saw me, Grandpa. He was the only one who asked real questions. Sleeping okay? Eating right? Saving a little for yourself? I always said yes, even when it wasn't true. The beginning of my independence. At 15, I got my first job at a small stationery shop. Then came a cafe job. Then a weekend office assistant role. Then a real admin position. Every cent I earned, I saved. It wasn't much at first, but over the years, it became something solid, something that made me proud. It was mine. My parents knew about my savings, which is exactly why my dad offered, "Let me open the account for you. It's easier if we manage it together." I trusted him. And that trust cost me later. Little withdrawals began shortly after. Tiny amounts borrowed for Lucas, a course fee, a book, a uniform, an urgent expense. Things easy to forgive. And I forgave, because that's what the responsible child does. Forgives until it hurts. Years later, I was living on my own. A tiny apartment, old, noisy, imperfect. But I paid for it myself. One Wednesday night, after a long day of work, I kicked off my shoes, heated leftover pasta, and checked my bank account. The number glared back at me, nearly empty. I blinked, refreshed the page, refreshed again. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a delay. It was real. My savings, years of work, were gone. And in the transaction history were transfer after transfer, withdrawal after withdrawal, all routing to the same CPF. My father's. A silence rose inside me, not the protective kind, but the suffocating kind. And I realized they thought I'd never notice. The confrontation that solved nothing. The next day, I went to my parents' house. Lucas was on the couch with a brand new laptop, sleek, expensive, definitely not something he usually had. "Nice laptop," I said. He didn't look up. "Yeah, Dad said I needed it for university. It's important." And that was the moment everything clicked. I waited until my dad walked into the kitchen. I steadied my breath, gathered courage I didn't feel. "Dad, why is money missing from my account?" He didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't even sigh. He said, "We used it for your brother. He deserves opportunities. You don't need it." I froze. "And you think that's fair?" I asked. He shrugged. "Sweetheart, you've always been responsible. You'll be fine. Your brother needs help. It's simple." Simple. That word hit me like a punch. The one person who never needed me defended me first. I left immediately and drove to Grandpa's house. He opened the door before I even knocked. "What happened?" he asked. And there, I broke. I told him everything: the withdrawals, the laptop, my father's confession. He didn't interrupt once. He didn't get angry. He got disappointed. Deeply. Then he put a hand on my shoulder and said, "They take advantage of your silence because you never raise your voice." I didn't know what to say. Then he added, "But they forget, I'm always listening." 3 days later, my parents invited everyone for a special dinner. The table was perfect, overly perfect. The atmosphere fake, like a stage set. I sat quietly. Grandpa watched everything. Then, while cutting his food, my dad said it again. "We'll use the rest of your savings for your brother's university fees." That was when Grandpa stood up. The chair groaned against the floor. "Say that again," he said. "But look at her this time." My father tried to laugh it off. He shouldn't have. Grandpa leaned forward. "Explain why you believe you have the right to use her money." Dad started with his usual excuses. "It's for Lucas's future. She understands. She's strong." Grandpa slammed his palm lightly on the table. "Being strong doesn't make her your bank." Silence crashed over the room. Lucas finally looked up. For once, he seemed to understand the weight of everything. I opened my bag, pulled out the printed transactions, laid them on the table. No one could deny anything. Dad's face paled. Mom's voice cracked. Grandpa's judgment was sharp and final. "You will return every cent." Mom began to protest. Dad tried to defend himself. Grandpa cut both off. "If you steal your daughter's hard work, you lose the right to say you love her." No one had a response. Over the next weeks, they returned the money. Every deposit, every installment, every excuse stripped away. I opened a new account, changed passwords, set boundaries I should have set years ago. Lucas apologized softly. It didn't fix everything, but it mattered. My mom tried to pretend everything was normal. My dad avoided me. But Grandpa called every day. Not to talk about money, but to ask, "You eating well? You sleeping better? You okay?" That's what real love does. It doesn't take, it gives. I was always the strong daughter, the one who understood, the one who adapted, the one who didn't ask for anything. But that night, for the first time, I understood something new. Strength doesn't mean silence. Responsibility doesn't mean sacrifice. And love doesn't mean letting people use you. I didn't just get my savings back. I got myself back. I found my voice, and they finally had to hear it.